r/out of the loop. Flying Karate Chop says, why are people talking about Bernie Sanders again? Non-American here. I vaguely remember Bernie Sanders in 2016. If I recall correctly, it seemed like people were either saying the US population thinks socialism is a dirty word, so Bernie would never be president, or they were saying, even if he did become president none of his bills would get passed, so backing Hillary is the better option. Now I'm seeing all this stuff, where people are saying the Democrats screwed up not picking Bernie. Is this just hindsight 20/20? Or was it really that obvious? Levinist 371 says, answer, the Democrats had the opportunity to channel all the populism arising from how much globalism has decimated the Rust Belt with Bernie in 2016, but instead they contrived to get Hillary nominated instead, whose husband actually encouraged globalism, so all the populism went to the Republicans, who did seize the opportunity instead. The Rust Belt states, traditionally solidly Democratic, swinging to the Republicans in response, was the deciding factor in the 2016 election as it was the last election. Until Trump courted that populism from blue-collar, former, middle-class America, politicians on both sides at best ignored all that suffering, came across as tone-deaf, and proposed no real solutions, at worst actively increased globalism, and called those people adversely affected nasty names. Leaving besides the fact that in the absence of increasing supply giving people $25k to buy a house just increases the price of a house by $25k, it doesn't help you. If you already have a house, or are so poor you can't buy $25k or no. Talking about how great the stock market is doing doesn't help if you can't invest in stocks because you're eking out a subsistence flipping burgers at McDonald's because the mine is closed and the factory moved to Mexico. Most of these voters are probably old enough childcare credits won't help. Edit. I think that what we are seeing is the parties realign, increasingly being globalist and nationalist as opposed to what is traditionally thought of as left and right. This could have easily gone the other way. In another world the Democrats run Bernie, keep the Rust Belt voters, and instead it's some of the more moderate mainstream Democrats that leave and join with the MAGA-free Republicans. Globalism having been established with the traditional Republicans, 1980s with Reagan, a long time before it became with Democrats. 1990s with Bill. Tokij says, I wish they never ran with Hillary. I wish they didn't run with Biden either. I don't know why Democrats have been choosing the candidates they have. I wish they appealed to emotions as well. They need to understand that not every voter searches. And they run so much of their marketing on TikTok just trying to seem trendy. r/out of the loop. Mean Green Machine says, what is up with the German chancellor firing the finance minister, and what does this mean for the country? I saw in the news that the German chancellor, Olaf Scholz, fired the finance minister, Christian Lindner, and that the coalition has now collapsed. What does this mean, and what are the implications? Domesticated Batman says, answer, so Scholz, the current chancellor, fired Lindner, who was the finance minister of Germany, and also declared that he would call a vote of confidence in his government early next year, in January. The coalition, of which both of them were a part of, is now in complete chaos. There was internal tension in the coalition for quite a while, but from my understanding, the tipping came when discussing the budget for 2025, because the German economy has not been doing well for 2 years now. Scholz accused Lindner of putting party over country, and Lindner said that the chancellor's economic plans and policies would lead to chaos and uncertainty. Lindner also refused Scholz's request to loosen the spending limit. As for the country as a whole, well, for now, it means chaos in the political system and no way forward in terms of fixing the economic issues. In a couple of months, early snap elections and significant change. Edit, my bad, messed up the dates for vote of confidence and snap elections. Vote of confidence in January, elections in March. KRMPLC says. The vote of confidence will be on January 15th, not March. r/OutOfTheLoop. Temp Dreaming says. What's going on with the Gen Z subreddit? I'm just a visitor from down under here. Also, I'm not Gen Z, but I've been seeing this sub on my main feed so much now that I had to check it out. And based on what I've seen, and based what I've read in threads from other subreddits, something feels seriously off. The amount of hateful rhetoric and divisive, emotionally charged dribble I've seen here is insane. Yes, I get the US had a terrible election result, and the voter turnout wasn't great. But it's not just Gen Z, millions of people don't vote every election, which is mind-boggling to me. But compulsory vs non-compulsory voting is another topic, and I'm not quite here for that. What I'm here for is to talk about the usual inflammatory themes I've seen on that subreddit which feel purposeful. I think they are being astroturfed. Someone in another discussion linked 3 very disturbing threads. There are several more, but I'll dig into just these 3 for example's sake. Right off the bat, I see that these are very broad, vaguely worded posts, and I believe this is on purpose. The purpose is to elicit emotionally charged responses from the people here, irrespective of their ideological alignments. They rely on strawman too. The first thread is literally only a screenshot of a Twitter post. It's just a guy saying that Gen Z men need to die in the trenches. Now the guys will of course be offended at this bullshit. Why should they suffer because of someone else? You have to remember, this is Twitter. It's a bumhole. This is just one troll saying something inflammatory to rile people up, then some other troll comes in and says see. This is what they want. They being whoever in this case. This is disingenuous at the very least. But that's how trolling works. The second thread is overly simplistic. It tries to paint all Gen Z men being conservative. Well, Gen Z men where? Everywhere? The US only? Why? What could be the reasons? Nobody explores the what, where, who, or why. All responses are generalizing all Gen Z men. This is very much like the men vs women debacle I saw years ago during the Gamaga days, or the anti-SJW dark ages of the mid-2000s. I recognize the patterns. This is solely to pit men and women against each other. The third thread seems a bit more genuine, but it's very reactionary. It's looking at the world through the lens of what the people from the US are experiencing. That is, most likely an American person expressing their grief, but blaming all groups equally, irrespective of their locations. That is a very broad sweep. Same concerns as above. I have looked at the posting history of a fair amount of accounts here. Only because I found them shady. I found that there were overlaps with shitposting subreddits, manosphere type bubbles and 4chan like trolling. I point E. People who aren't being sincere to begin with. I think they are being riled up to be divided further. After all, they already got the boomers and the Gen Zers, right? Now it's millennials and Gen Zers, because young people are the future. Young people are the last hope of any sort of unity, so these astroturfers will try to divide and conquer us. Anyway, what do? D. Alambert says. Answer, in my observation it has been clearly a target of troll farms for a long time, and I'm sure you're right about it also being a target of alt-right activists and the like. Their MO is to recruit young, so that sub is an obvious place to go. Without access to Reddit's inside tools it's probably impossible for us to know exactly what mix of bad faith actors are in there working to rile people up, or funnel them into alt-right pipelines, or exacerbate political disengagement / apathy etc. But I think it's safe to assume that sub is crawling with bad faith actors, as are so many others, and it's best avoided. FZVW says. Yeah, disaffected young men have been targeted for recruitment by the far right for a long time. The posts up links to shows how bad it is. A tweet by some random person who may or may not be posting in good faith, is treated as some sort definitive statement. It's outrage bait, and no one is immune. But many young men, and anyone else who relies on social media for news, are particularly vulnerable to manipulation by bad actors. Temp Dreaming says, yes, I remember when I was their age, I would take things so personally. It's just what kids do. I just didn't have social media back then, so I was able to navigate through that phase much more easily. Modernist Amphibian says, answer, you're asking a lot of questions and making a lot of statements. It's not really straightforward thing, but it's not just Gen Z, nor is Reddit real life, and the Gen Z sub may just be millions of Gen Alphas cosplaying, or who knows, since no it is required. Millions of people don't vote every election, which is mind-boggling to me. Millions of people don't vote in every country, including Australia. About 3 to 4 million don't vote. How many million in other countries? It depends. In the US, it would be completely illegal to make voting compulsory, and most Americans haven't done their research to vote. Voting in the US really requires a lot of research, and 54% of the public reads below a 6th grade level. Would you want everyone younger than 6th grade, who actually reads below their grade level, voting in Australia? Maybe that would actually be good. I think they are being astroturfed. That's possible. If it's true, they'd never tell anyone though, the astroturfers. It's just... That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.